Editor, Shiprocket, Waymo, globally Mistral, Orange Health, etc. I'm very, very pleased to welcome my other panel members here. Let me just start by speaking about Mr. Abhishek Prasad. He's the MD at Cornerstone Ventures. They back enterprise SaaS and B2B companies. Some of their notable portfolio are companies like Credelio, THP, Blue Birch, Mr. Fly. In fact, I share my alma mater with you. I'm Bangalore. And Abhishek has spent 25 years across investments, consulting, global SaaS, as well as entrepreneurship. We will use his investor lens today to understand, the shift in the playbook that I was speaking about. Let's now welcome Mr. Kartik Raja. He's the founder of Mozark AI. They're an observability platform, and it helps companies monitor failure points in their digital journeys. Kartik is also a serial entrepreneur, and we hope to leverage his product thinking and understand the way adoption happens during this discussion. I'm also here to welcome Mr. Naresh Agarwal next. He's the head of engineering, specifically for the application security platform for Harness. Harness, as we know, is a multi-billion-dollar valued company which is building agentic AI for DevOps security and code-to-cloud security platform for Fortune 1000 companies. Mr. Naresh also has over 20 years of extensive engineering experience across companies like AppDynamics, InMobi, Informatica. We don't share an alma mater, but my college was with Filani, and I know you've spent some time there. Moving on to the visionary on this panel, Mr. Nandhiji, Adhipen Bose. He's taken some time to tell us about. He's the founder of CNESS, and CNESS is a global platform advancing ethical leadership, conscious enterprise, and social standards for humanity's next evolution. He's also a serial founder, and I hope to touch some philosophical aspects of AI's adoption, as well as how he sees consciousness build in terms of branding and taking that company forward from an Indian to global scale. So that's where we are going to spend some time with the panelists. Please, a huge round of applause for people who are sitting on this panel and sharing their perspective. I do want to start with Abhishek. Like you, I'm a VC, very curious about the investing lens. You have 20 portfolio companies across B2B, SaaS, global, cross-border. We often hear companies coming to us, and you've seen the evolution of SaaS. What do you see? What do you see the state of SaaS for the next 5 years? Are there any 2 or 3 key metrics that you're concentrating on, or any message to the SaaS founders that these are the things that you should focus on in an AI era?
Thanks, Swati. Thank you for having me here today. And Swati and gentlemen, sorry about being a little bit late. I didn't catch up with you over there. I think Swati has already introduced me and the fund, and maybe I'll just dive straight into the topic. I think when we started out back in 2017 is when we started talking about SaaS. 2018 is when we launched a SaaS-focused fund in India that was still new. People were not really thematic at that point. And that became our big niche, saying that, oh, these guys are doing something different. But when you go to raise money out there, obviously when you're raising money from HNIs, family offices, back then no one understood SaaS. Half the people would call SaaS sauce or SaaS, whatever, variants of it. And I think in our first fund, we were able to raise a reasonable amount of capital in the confusion that people didn't really understand what SaaS was, and they just thought that there's this crazy hockey stick growth that's going to come. Of course, when we started deploying again, it was a great time because from an investor standpoint, there weren't too many other investors trying to do that at our stage. We were doing Series A, Series B, and we would then get in at good valuations. That's my perspective. and you would then feel happy about it. And then, of course, COVID showed up. So just the evolution of SaaS over the last 5-6 years, I'd say. What COVID led to was a lot of people, the layman, getting an understanding of what remote work is, what SaaS is, what subscription is, how that adoption works. It also led to a lot of funds jumping into that business model, which led to crazy valuations. An interesting journey for us, where we were trying to stick to metrics, as you were talking about metrics back then. And then as we came out of COVID, there were corrections, there was all of that, and our story was coming back together. Then, of course, I think it was October 22 when AI showed up, and guys like Satya Nadella started saying SaaS is dead, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, okay, what? Half our investors were getting nervous, saying, oh, you've been investing in this business model and it is dead. So what's happening with my money? So SaaS has seen that kind of evolution, but today, now that AI is, I would say, uh, in its early maturity. People are understanding the impact it's going to make. Maybe I'll try and suggest in layman terms how I see it. A lot of people ask me, what do you invest in? Do you invest in fintech, healthcare, edtech, what have you, supply chain distribution? Eventually, I tell them, listen, I am sector agnostic. I care about the business model, and that business model is SaaS. Now, if I have to explain this to somebody in simple terms, if I'm a farmer, I grow apples, oranges, melon, what have you. SaaS is the soil on which I grow this, right? So that's your industries, and SaaS is your business model or the soil. Now, when AI comes along, AI becomes your fertilizer. That's how we see it. So your soil becomes far more productive in order for you to create better, rapid, faster growth. And that's how we see the future of SaaS, where AI has to become a catalyst in the journey of the evolution of this business model. And for that, I think the most important thing is that your moats cannot stay primarily in tech. Your moats need to move into verticalization, your moats need to move into data, your moats need to move into an ability of using that data to create better, faster, quicker, smarter decisions in order for you to deliver better value and therefore, bring better value to you as a SaaS founder. So if I look at a 5-year vision, I think where we are today or where we were probably 2, 3, 4 years back, a SaaS business model was all about number of subscriptions, number of seats, therefore number of humans. Where we moved pretty quickly with the advent of AI, and the experts are here, I think the initial business models that evolved were number of agents which are being used. And these agents were, maybe I can call it the human in the loop approach, where humans would do stuff and agents would do the, quicker stuff and more efficient stuff. That's evolving into what I call as proof of work. As these agents evolve, as the orchestration platforms evolve, we are moving into a proof of work journey. I think we are already there, where your business models can evolve into saying, hey, I processed 20,000 insurance policies for you without a single human intervention, and that is proof of work. And ideally, in probably 2 years' time, we will completely move to, or I hope we do, to proof of value, where this is the revenue I created for you, this is the quantum of dollars I saved for you, so give me that, give me a share of that value. And that's where your adoption of AI, I would say, becomes fully mature. And we're not too far away, in my view. I think a lot of us are in our personal journeys in terms of understanding the adoption. But if you look at the cutting edge, and many gentlemen here are there, I think we're not too far away from that kind of final truth, where you can finally move to proof of value on the back of adoption of AI.
No, thanks. Thank you so much for that perspective, Abhishek. I think two key takeaways from me for founders out there. How do you move from proof of work to proof of value, and how do at least investors like us assess early modes? Does it come in verticalization? Does it come in integration? Does it come in the way you've thought of a problem so deeply which becomes a part of the operating system of the function or organization that you're planning to fit in. Very interesting perspective, Abhishek. I'm moving on to, now that we know what investors are looking into, I'm moving on to Kartik to really understand. Founders here are trying to sell to enterprises, but are enterprises even ready to adopt? What is the on-ground situation here? You, Kartik, have seen journeys of companies smoothing out their digital journeys from an endpoint perspective. How do you, where are the failure points? The Mozark AI, I believe, is all about observability. What does that observability look like in the AI age? Are they ready to adopt AI? If you need to put these checkpoints in the AI era, what is it that you would focus on?
Thanks for the question. I think so. I think if we could approach it in two different directions, right? So one direction is when it comes to efficiencies, right? So from an efficiency perspective, we already see deployments. I mean, we already see people getting ready to do that. Every individual uses AI in some form and fashion, right? In any company today, you're using some form of agent to make themselves more efficient. Teams use it to make themselves more efficient, and so on and so forth. So we don't see that as being a difficult challenge as we go. But I think the larger question is when you start seeing, when you talk about agents as a replacement of people. Are we ready to do that? And now that, I think there is still some challenges at this point in time. I mean, I think broadly the challenges, I mean, apart from the social aspects of the challenges, I think at a commercial level, the challenges are what's the commercial model, how do you do it? From an architectural layer, I mean, okay, if I have a contract with you and you have taken some agents from me and the agent has been learning, and once the contract is over, what happens, right? I mean, the learned agent, is it your property? Is it my property? What is the right to forget? These are kinds of things which architecturally are coming up as we speak. And once those things get solved and evolved in the next, I think it will happen sometime this year, you'll have those kind of aspects done, right? But broadly, I think if I were to just separate it, I mean, it's not about just processes or people, but the main constraint, apart from some of the legal constraints and stuff which I just touched upon, is that whatever, there is an element of friction from the software world to the physical world, right? So I'll just give an example of some of the areas we address, which would be in terms of the software DevOps cycle, right? So you have a lot of development, and development gets more and more efficient. As we all know, you're able to come up with releases much faster, but then you got to test it. And the challenge for testing is it has to happen in the physical world. This just is an example, right? I mean, it has to happen on a real device. It has to happen in a real location. You got to see whether an OTP is happening or whatever, right? Some kind of example. So that is still hitting the physical world, and that's still causing a friction there, and it becomes a bottleneck, right? So then you have platforms like what Mozark does, which allows you to streamline the physical world in a way where agents can come in at the same pace and be able to deploy these at that pace. And I think that's the same challenge for any kind of physical constraint that you see, whether it's a legal constraint or operational constraint, any kind of friction that you see, you will need some kind of platform which comes in and marries the pace of development into the and instead of making it a bottleneck.
Of course. But do you see this differently in Indian companies versus US companies? Because you will have clients across.
See, at least in the development space, I don't see that much of a challenge, right? I mean, I think process-wise, both Indian companies, I mean, at least when it comes to the DevOps cycle, both Indian companies and US companies have similar, I mean, most of them outsource in some form and fashion. It's very process-driven. So when it's very process-driven, it gets very easy to automate. But now you're trying to agentize it, which is have the people. So, but because of the outsourcing mindset, it also becomes easier to talk about the point he attributed to, which is Okay, what is the value that you create? Okay, so this is, as a developer, I have generated this feature in this time and stuff like that. It becomes easier and easier to show a store of value. So at least in the DevOps cycle, I don't see it as too much of a challenge. So I see it here. I see it here and now it's happening.
Very interesting perspective. Now moving to just adding on to what Kartik mentioned, moving to the DevOps person and the engineering person out here. Naresh, you've spent so many years building products, figuring out security around it, shipping it across organizations. I think the harder question to you is, as Kartik was mentioning, if AI is making software cheaper to build, where does the value migrate?
So first of all, thank you for having me here. So if you look at pre-AI era, right, I think the tech companies' strengths and value is about, hey, how big is the engineering? How fast you can build product? How many products you can build, right? But fundamentally, building the product is kind of getting more and more commoditized, right? So if we break down the product and business building, right, the journey, the first part is picking the right problem, and then building the product, and then the distribution, and then finally post-sales experience, right? So the bulk of this used to be the second part, which is building the product, right? And that used to be the biggest value in a tech company in the pre-AI era, right? Now that getting commoditized, right, I think the value is going to move a little bit up in the stack, starting from figuring out the right problem, where you really understand the pain points deeply, you really understand the customer use case, the domain context deeply. So that the value of finding the right problem where there's a demand goes up substantially. And then the distribution moat will become bigger and deeper in the AI era. And finally, especially for the large enterprise, I think the post-sales experience, I don't think that's going to change at least for next couple of years, because the large enterprise are still very high touch, with a lot of need of customization and configuration, so that will not change. So that's like one key change around the value. The second is, if you look at AI is doing a really great job in building a V1, the first version of product, taking the product well to 90 to 90% in terms of quality accuracy. But in the enterprise world, anything which is not 100% is dead on arrival, right? So the last 5%, the last 10%, which is mostly around the non-functional enterprise readiness, be it performance, scale, quality, scalability, security, governance, compliance. So that the last 10% is still going to be very, very important, and that still stays relevant even in the AI era, right? The next I will pick is the data in context. I think AI is as good as the data you feed in, the context you feed in, right? So if fundamentally you are in a business, you are building a product which has a lot of good data, a lot of good context, that moat is still very, very important, relevant. The way it's going to change in AI is I think you might be hearing more and more about this concept of knowledge graph, right? Like, for example, at Harness, we have close to 20 products. And each of these products are now connected through a knowledge graph, where this knowledge graph is fed to the agentic workflows as an intelligence layer, right? So the data and context moat again become deeper, right? And I don't think you can fundamentally take that moat out with the AI layer, right? The next I'll pick is, I think, the trust on you as a business, right? All the elements around security, compliance, governance, I think the bar will change significantly high, right? So many of you might have heard about Mythos, right? So I've been doing cybersecurity for quite some time, right? With things like Mythos and the Claude Code, right? I think the volume of vulnerabilities, the volume of attacks, the sophistication of attacks will go up by 1,000 times. The hacker community has access to equally strong AI models, right? So I can foresee a world very soon. It's like AI, the agents attacking and agents defending. It's just that the agents defending has a additional advantage of the context, right? So I think with the deep fake, with the malware, with the bot, with something like Mythos, I think the bar on the trust, can I trust this vendor, can I trust this product, is going to go significantly higher, right? And that's where the investment in the AI security, the AI code governance is very, very important in terms of value. The last I'll pick is very interesting. So I think many of us feels that, especially in the large companies, right, the coding is done more and more by agents, right? 80 to 90% of the code is getting written with agents. Even the testing, production, deployment, parts of customer support are getting automated. But still, those companies are slow. They don't see the right level of outcome, even though the coding speed has gone up 10x. The business outcome is not gone 10x. So fundamentally, the large companies need to revisit their org structures. The bulk of time is still spent in alignment, decision making, and back and forth. And that has not changed with AI, and I don't think AI can solve that. So fundamentally, all the large legacy business has to simplify their hierarchy, their structure, their org structure, so that the speed of decision making can match the speed of coding through agents, right? And that's a very fundamental need. And I think the companies who can drive this change faster will continue to win the age of AI.
Sure. No, it's very interesting aspect about the speed of decision making. And you also touched upon the point where software is becoming a commodity to code. To engineers out there, how should they think about their core value skills? What shift that is coming? What do they need? What do we need? Actually, I also happen to be an engineer, not doing that anymore. But what is it that we need to focus on in terms of shift in our core skills?
Yeah, no, I think this is something on top of mind of large number of tech community, engineering, even students, parents, all of us. Like is engineering even relevant tomorrow, right? I think that's the basic question, right? And even like there's a conversation: can like grade 12 students start doing the job tomorrow? Do we need college? Do we need engineering degree anymore, right? So I think I see a few fundamental shifts, right? The first is so there's a why, what, and how, right? Why we build something, why it's relevant, what's the value we are delivering to business, to the customer, what problem we are solving, and finally how we are solving the problem. Traditionally, historically, until last year, the most important skill for engineers was how. 80% was how, 20% was, 15% was what, and 5% was why. I think it will exactly reverse the order, right? The why and what will be 85% of engineers going forward. So as an engineer, you need to really start getting very, very comfortable with business and product. You need to spend a lot more time understanding the business, the product, the problems, the use case, the customer. The closer you are with the customer, to the product, to the problem and business, the better you will be in building the right product and solving the right problem. So the fundamental role will change from building features, shipping features, to the outcomes, which is building the right product and building the right business, right? So it's a very fundamental shift in the thinking, the way engineers think. I mean, it used to be more around, hey, do I know the more complex tech? Do I know all the cool technologies? But it's going to be a lot more around how comfortable you are in understanding business and product. I think that's one. The second very important thing is basically, I call it like known functional constraints, right? So the coding agents are as good as the instructions, right? And fundamentally, we as engineers, we just think about functionality. We don't think about known functional constraints. But all the known functional constraints around performance, scale, cost, security are going to be very, very relevant going forward in the AI era. The next I'll pick is essentially the soft skills, right? The soft skills are going to be very, very important, right? Can you communicate really well? Can you articulate really well? Can you collaborate? So communication, collaboration, articulation are going to be very, very important going forward, which used to be kind of ignored or fairly less important in the past.
Of course, to engineers out there, pay attention. I now need to really talk about a very interesting concept. We all spoke about building great companies. What today we want to understand from Nandhiji is, he's spoken of a very interesting concept called consciousness of a brand, which takes a company to greater heights. Now, CNESS is a AI-enabled company. It's a software company. I want to understand what does it mean for us to enable a brand with consciousness and to take it to those heights, and how are you even enabling it?
Namaste, divine beings, and hello. Thank you, my fellow panelist. See, CNESS is a product of 20 years of vision and intent that consciousness has come. The age of information transits to the age of consciousness. Today, if we look into the word brand, it begins with how much trust there is and what we do on various layers. Now, CNESS has launched 2 products, March 18th. One is the Consciousness social media super app, which addresses loneliness, which addresses lack of recognition and connectivity from dependence, reliability, and trust on a personal level, which is the social media. And then we have the B2B, which is CNESS Works, where we take the company through the journey of consciousness by way of certification, build the brand, enhance trust, and showcase them across the globe. We are a Californian-based company, and we see things from we look at it from a global level. Our Consciousness Super App has been registered in 130 countries. So now when we are dealing with business, we do need to scale it up to the international global needs. And it begins with what we can do in terms of, when we ask a company, why do you exist? What is it that you do as greater good? What is it that and how you operate? So we have the 6 pillars through which we journey the company. And as the company builds its brand, it also connects to the global audience to enhance its business potential. And trust is something that allows the company to reach a larger audience. And then finally is the impact. The impact is what is the change we could make. All of this rests through building the credibility of each other, and especially of the companies. And when the company builds its credibility by way of enhancement, then it comes into the newer paradigm. The newer paradigm of wealth is brand, is engagement, is connectivity, is interaction, is crowdsourcing, and content. All of this is that which will be the success of companies moving forward from today to the next. Now, India is bursting with innovation. So much of a technological leap we are taking. We all have our minds overflowing with inspiration. And all of this needs to be showcased across the globe. And that's where CNESS comes in. So we would invite each of you to be the first and the pioneer members of the Consciousness social media super app. And our CNESS works as with your company, your organization, and allow ourselves to come together to usher the newer paradigm where consciousness is the success of any company, and individually, we all are able to maximize the potential in life, as in our experience, in our engagement with each other, in uplifting each other. It might sound philosophical, but in practical terms today, companies are able to reach their audience based on whom they are. With the age of information and technology, it's now pretty clear as to what a company stands for, and that is where customer loyalty comes in. That is where trust comes in. And if we look into quality, that which is, we wish to redefine the word quality with consciousness.
Of course.
So this is what we do, and I would invite each of you to join the movement as in your participation to allow ourselves to be greater. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very interesting, and I learned a new word today, and perhaps we've not thought about it enough on what Nandhiji just mentioned. Very, very quickly, just one last question on a rapid fire from the panelist over here.
Okay, in a quick one.
Yes. Do we really think SaaS is dead? Abhishek?
Definitely not. As I mentioned in my first one, I think SaaS is only going to be supercharged with AI. And thanks to, folks here, I feel more confident that it will be.
Thank you. Kartik?
Not dead, but dying, yes.
Interesting. Naresh?
I didn't get a question.
Do we really think SaaS is dead?
No, I don't think so. I think folks had similar feeling 10 years back when the cloud came in, right? And SaaS is still very much thriving. Yeah.
Thank you. Nandhiji, what is your perspective on this? Do you really think SaaS is dead?
Yes, we've come together, and now let's enhance ourselves. The way forward today is the greater thinking that each one of us are here for, and let's just simply do it. Gratitude.
Very interesting. A lot of great learnings from here, and thank you so much for giving us your audience.